Lando Norris didn't just stumble into Formula One like some posh goof with daddy's money. He absolutely smashed every single record on his way to the top. And I'm not even exaggerating here. He's young, funny and quick, but that's not all. I would argue he became Formula One's first ever internet superstar. How did that happen? Well, today we'll find out.
Oh my God, it's
There's this 7-year-old kid from Glastonbury who's obsessed with MotoGP, right? But then one day he decides, nah, 4 wheels look way more fun than 2. That kid was Lando Norris, born 13th of November 1999, and that random decision basically changed motorsport forever. By the time he was 12, Lando wasn't just quick, he was record-breaking. The mad lad became a national karting pole position record holder and won the 2012 Formula Kart Stars Mini-Max Championship. 2013 was when things got properly ridiculous. At just 14 years old, Lando Norris didn't just win one championship, he swept them all. The European KFJ Championship, the Super Cup and the World Karting Championship all fell to this British teenager in the same year. But here's the mental bit. By winning the World Karting Championship at 14, Norris became the youngest ever karting world champion, breaking a record previously held by no other than Lewis Hamilton. However, most drivers still struggle massively when they make the jump from karts to cars. Not Lando though. At 14, he made his car racing debut at the 2014 Ginetta Junior Championship and immediately showed he belonged there. 3rd overall and the Rookie Cup in his first year.
It's been really enjoyable. I think that's the main thing.
2015 was when he really started taking liberties though. Norris stepped into single-seaters and absolutely conquered the newly established MSA Formula Championship with Carlin. 8 race wins and the title against older, more experienced drivers. You would think he would pause there, at least take a breather. No, 2016 was the year Lando won 3 different championships across 3 different continents. He dominated both the Formula Renault Euro Cup and the Formula Renault Northern European Cup, but then travelled to New Zealand in winter to win the Toyota Racing Series Championship as well. The motorsport press called it a clean sweep and right away established Norris as one of the hottest prospects in the sport. That year, he also earned the prestigious McLaren Autosport Award, which recognised him as Britain's top young driver. The prize? A test in a Formula One simulator, of course. Nobody knew it then, but this would be the very beginning of a beautiful relationship between Norris and McLaren.
It's been pretty mad. Very busy with Formula 3.
Talents like Norris don't go unnoticed for long. In early 2017, McLaren moved quickly to sign the 17-year-old to join their junior driver program, winning the race to land his signature before rival teams could swoop in. Norris later said the good feeling he got walking into McLaren's factory convinced him it was the right home, and McLaren's CEO Zak Brown called him a fabulous prospect after his triple championship season. However, joining McLaren's young driver roster meant stepping up to Formula 3, the next level of competition where careers are made or broken. Lando chose to stay with the familiar Carlin team in the European F3 Championship, a decision that was basically a huge gamble since Carlin hadn't been at the top of F3 for years. Still, Norris's faith in Carlin paid off. He won the very first race of the 2017 F3 season and never looked back. By the end of the year, he had clinched the F3 title on his first attempt, racking up 9 victories and 19 total podiums in 30 races against a high-caliber field. With an F3 title in hand before his 18th birthday, Norris progressed to Formula 2 in 2018, the final stepping stone before Formula 1. He also took on a formal role as McLaren's F1 test and reserve driver, getting his first taste of what awaited him at the pinnacle of motorsport. Once again, Norris hit the ground running. He won the opening F2 feature race in Bahrain on debut, announcing his arrival in style. Throughout 2018, he was locked in a tight title battle against fellow rookies George Russell and Alexander Albon. I mean, look at the lineup. That year was basically a golden generation of drivers all packed into F2. Lando was widely expected to dominate everybody, but here comes the twist. Norris finished the 2018 Formula 2 season as runner-up to Russell. Yes, he was just kinda unlucky that season. Carlin suffered reliability issues, including recurring clutch problems throughout the year. Still, second place in such a field with a car that can barely run is a solid achievement. By season's end, Norris's promotion to Formula One was secured. McLaren announced in September 2018 that he would be graduating to an F1 race seat alongside Carlos Sainz for 2019. However, joining Formula One wasn't going to be easy. McLaren was in the midst of rebuilding after years of struggle, and Norris would be partnered with a proven race winner who wouldn't make life easy for the rookie.
My heart and passion is with motorsport, so yeah, to finally be in Formula One.
Norris made his Formula One debut at the 2019 Australian Grand Prix. The once great McLaren outfit had been struggling massively in recent years. The Honda engine partnership was an absolute disaster, and even after switching to Renault power in 2018, the team finished a disappointing 6th in the constructors' standings. There wasn't huge pressure on Lando in his rookie season because McLaren knew 2019 would be a learning year. However, Norris still managed to impress. Throughout the season, he scored points 11 times and notably won the qualifying head-to-head battle against Carlos Sainz, demonstrating exceptional one-lap speed for a rookie. Norris came close to a breakthrough result at the Belgian Grand Prix, running 5th on the final lap before a late mechanical failure robbed him of what could have been his first podium. By the end of 2019, though, something remarkable had happened. The gap between Sainz and Norris had become paper-thin, with Lando significantly closing the experience deficit as the year progressed. McLaren finished 4th in the Constructors' Championship, their best result in 7 seasons, and much of that success was down to the youthful energy and speed of their driver pairing. However, it was Norris's sophomore campaign in 2020 that really announced his arrival as a future star. He kicked off the season with his maiden Formula One podium at the Austrian Grand Prix, where a brilliant final lap propelled him to 3rd place. Throughout 2020, Norris combined qualifying speed with improved racecraft, finishing outside the top 10 only 4 times in 17 races. His consistency helped McLaren achieve a remarkable 3rd place in the Constructors' Championship, their highest ranking since 2012. At just 20 years old, Lando Norris had established himself as one of the brightest talents in Formula One. But the speed and the podiums was not the only thing he brought to McLaren. Lando was actually one of the first F1 drivers to embrace Twitch streaming, starting as a teenager and building a massive following long before it was considered normal for racing drivers. When the pandemic hit in 2020 and real racing went on hiatus, Norris led a group of young drivers in organising virtual races and online content to entertain fans.
Lando, we can be world champion, I said. Please, Lando. Lando! Lando! Lando!
That was an actual blessing for McLaren, who were struggling with attracting a new audience and rebuilding their brand value in F1. Alongside Charles Leclerc, George Russell and Alex Albon, Lando broadcast multiplayer races and games, offering fans an unprecedented peek into drivers' personalities away from the paddock.
My chat wanted me to ask you for some tips from starting from last on the grid.
I would turn off the computer and watch the series.
These streams were insanely popular. Norris would prank call Daniel Ricciardo or Carlos Sainz live on air.
Who am I speaking with?
You don't know?
Banter between drivers was flying, and the clips were getting millions of views. As one magazine put it, Norris has helped revolutionize F1 and the way we see F1 drivers forever. In the past, fans only saw drivers through polished PR appearances, but Norris's authentic online presence broke down the barriers between F1 stars and the public. His success even inspired other drivers like Max Verstappen to start streaming on Twitch. And boy, do we love that.
A Minecraft stream?
A Minecraft?
Well, the problem is, my pickaxe is f***ed.
Norris ended up becoming F1's crossover star, appearing in videos with mainstream YouTubers like the Sidemen and bringing motorsport to people who might never have watched a race otherwise. But the numbers tell the real story of just how mental his internet dominance actually is. By 2023, Lando had 11.2 million followers across all platforms, 6.4 million on Instagram, 2.4 million on Twitter, 1 million on Facebook and 1.4 million on TikTok. That's more than drivers like Carlos Sainz and George Russell, and he was pulling these numbers before he'd even won a race. The business side is equally bonkers. In 2020, Lando founded Team Quadrant, his own esports team focusing on content creation and apparel, and kept over 20% ownership even after selling to major media companies. By 2024, Quadrant closed a 7-figure investment round worth at least $10 million, described as one of the largest for a UK-based esports brand. The company just sold a majority stake to Veloci Media Group, which generated £12.8 million in revenue last year. Even McLaren's marketing department knows Lando's their secret weapon. As the first F1 team to land on TikTok, McLaren has amassed 6.7 million followers, and their social media engagement absolutely destroys other teams. Most recently, Lando partnered up with another fellow YouTuber, Will&E, and those two got over 1 billion views across social media. That's not just being popular online, that's creating an entire media empire while still trying to win championships. However, one fun Twitch streamer is good, but what if you can get two of the most goofy people in F1 on one team?
Yeah, it's nice to be fighting these guys. It's nice to be there on merit and there on pure pace, and hopefully we can have some more in the future.
Going into 2021, McLaren made a blockbuster move that nobody saw coming. Carlos Sainz, Norris's beloved Lando partner, was heading to Ferrari, and in his place came Daniel Ricciardo, a 7-time race winner with a massive reputation and an even bigger smile. Everyone expected the veteran Australian to lead the team and show the young Brit how it's done. But they couldn't have been more wrong. Norris started 2021 in superb form, taking 4 podium finishes throughout the season. That's more podiums than any driver outside the Hamilton-Verstappen title fight that was going on that year. I would also argue Monza in 2021 will go down as one of the most emotional moments in recent McLaren history. Ricciardo finally found his form and took the victory, but it was Norris's brilliant drive to second place that secured McLaren's first 1-2 finish since 2010. It was their first win in nearly 9 years. However, for every high in Formula 1, there's often a crushing low waiting around the corner.
And Hamilton takes the lead of the race as Lando Norris slides off the track.
The Russian Grand Prix in Sochi 2021 will forever be remembered as one of the most heartbreaking moments in Lando's career. Norris achieved his first Formula 1 pole position and led the majority of the race, looking comfortable and in control. Victory seemed inevitable. Then, with just a few laps to go, rain began to fall. The team advised him to pit for intermediate tyres, but Norris made the call to stay out on slicks, gambling that the rain wouldn't get worse. It did get worse, much worse. As conditions deteriorated, Norris agonizingly slid off the track, surrendering what looked like a certain maiden victory. The sight was absolutely gutting. Despite the Sochi heartbreak though, Norris's 2021 season was a revelation. He finished 6th in the Drivers' Championship with 160 points and firmly established himself as an F1 frontrunner with his speed and consistency. At just 21, he had become the face of McLaren and one of the brightest talents in the sport. What made his performances even more impressive was how he dominated his experienced teammate. While Ricciardo struggled with the McLaren's handling characteristics, Norris extracted maximum performance from the car week after week. The narrative had completely flipped. Instead of learning from the veteran, Norris was carrying the team on his shoulders.
I could just carve my way through and just make positions every lap.
In 2022, Formula 1 introduced revolutionary new technical regulations, and McLaren's form took a massive hit. The Mercedes and Ferrari Works teams leaped ahead in performance, and the McLaren dropped down the pecking order. It was a proper test of character for Norris. How could he perform when the car wasn't capable of regular podiums once again? The answer was emphatic. Despite the car's limitations, Norris excelled as the clean team leader, often extracting performance that simply couldn't have been possible. At Imola, Lando stunned the paddock by taking McLaren's only podium of 2022, a brilliant third place despite the car being only the 4th or 5th fastest on paper. Even more impressively, Norris was the only driver outside the top 3 teams to stand on the podium in 2022. With Norris bringing home these kinds of results by the end of 2022, the writing was on the wall for Daniel Ricciardo at McLaren. Norris has scored 122 of McLaren's 159 points, a lopsided tally that highlighted just how much he was carrying the team. He routinely outperformed Ricciardo in both qualifying and races, leading to the Australian's exit from McLaren after the season. For 2023, McLaren made another bold move, signing rookie Oscar Piastri to replace Ricciardo. This created one of the youngest lineups on the grid, with Norris 23 and Piastri 22, both hungry for success. By the way, I've made a video about Oscar Piastri and the way McLaren poached him from Alpine. You should check it out. And if you like this video so far, don't forget to subscribe, as I'm trying to get to 35,000 subscribers by the end of summer. Subscribe! Early 2023 was challenging for McLaren, with their new car off the pace, but Norris played a pivotal role in guiding development. As team principal, Andrea Stella explained Lando's input was a key factor in the upgrades battle throughout 2023. So when McLaren's major upgrades arrived around mid-season, everything changed. In the second half of 2023, Lando began collecting podiums like it's nothing. At the British Grand Prix, his home race, Norris qualified on the front row and thrilled the Silverstone crowd by leading the early laps and ultimately finishing second, clinching McLaren's first home Grand Prix podium since 2008. Further podiums followed as Norris consistently duelled with Mercedes and Ferrari, and even challenged the dominant Red Bulls on occasion. From the introduction of the summer upgrades onward, Norris scored 166 points in the final 14 rounds, making him the second most consistent driver after Max Verstappen over that span. The stage was set for 2024, the year that would change everything for both McLaren and Lando Norris.
We were just quick, and as soon as I got back in a good rhythm, we were quick again.
The 2024 season proved to be the watershed moment for both McLaren and Lando Norris. Before the season even started, Norris signed a new multi-year contract extension through at least 2028, a clear signal of commitment from both driver and team. McLaren's MCL38 car emerged from winter testing as a genuine front-runner, establishing the team as title contenders for the first time in over a decade. Then, Miami happened. After years of near misses, Lando Norris finally achieved his first Formula One victory. He passed reigning champion Max Verstappen on track for the lead and never looked back. Another defining moment came at the season finale in Abu Dhabi, where Norris put his McLaren on pole and led the entire race with nerves of steel to win the race. By the end of 2024, Norris had finished as Formula One Drivers' Championship runner-up, pushing Max Verstappen all the way to the finale. By the way, Norris and Verstappen dynamic can be a subject of an entire video. These two struck up a genuine friendship even before Lando reached F1. They're close in age and share a love of sim racing, frequently gaming together. That camaraderie translated to the paddock. We often see them laughing together in press conferences or poking fun at each other. However, as their 2024 on-track battles intensified, we all had just one question: could their friendship survive the heat of championship fights? The answer came in dramatic fashion at the 2024 Austrian Grand Prix, when the two collided while fighting for the lead in the closing laps. The crash ended Norris's race and damaged Verstappen's car, handing victory to George Russell. Norris was obviously furious, calling Verstappen's driving stupid and unfair and saying Max needed to admit his mistake. They called off and privately cleared the air before the next race. "We talked, we remain great friends, and that's all that matters," Verstappen told reporters, emphasizing that maintaining their friendship was a priority. Of course, more incidents followed in Austin and Mexico, where Verstappen received penalties for forcing Norris off track, but through it all, both drivers maintained their respect for each other. You've got to give it to Max though. Even with all the battles on track, he was still giving Norris lifts to and from races on his private jet. Going into 2025, British bookmakers had actually installed Lando as the slight championship favourite over Max, giving McLaren's dominant form at the end of 2024. But racing gods can't make winning that easy for Lando, right?
One of us is going to win every now and then, and it's going to go to and fro, but for the rest of the years.
Within just 4 races of the 2025 season, something unprecedented happened. The betting odds completely flipped, making Oscar Piastri the new championship favourite despite Norris holding a narrow points lead at the time. Norris has suddenly gone from main hope to underdog within his own team. Well, Norris's response for being written off was absolutely emphatic. After that opening stint where Piastri shone, Norris struck back with a series of top performances that reminded everyone why he'd been championship favourite in the first place. He took victory in Austria, then triumphed on home soil at Silverstone, a race Piastri had actually led until a penalty for erratic braking behind the safety car dropped the Australian down the order. Those back-to-back wins shifted momentum firmly back to Norris once again. So, Lando arrived at Spa with championship momentum and secured pole position. Everything seemed to be going his way. However, Piastri managed to slipstream past Norris at the restart, making a daring pass into Les Combes, and went on to win the Belgian Grand Prix. That win put Piastri back on top by 16 points and underscored just how evenly matched the duo were. Looking at where Norris stands in 2025, it's clear that Lando isn't just a really good driver. But despite his undeniable speed and growing consistency, there's still a sense that something is holding him back from truly dominating. That something, paradoxically, might be the very thing that's made him so popular in the first place. His emotional transparency, the same trait that brought a new generation of fans to McLaren through his streaming and off-track openness, can become a liability in the heat of battle. 2025 season is clearly showing that when everything is going right, he's unstoppable. But when pressure builds or strategy falters, those raw emotions sometimes spill over and disrupt the focus that separates champions from challengers. But I think that's really cool to have such a driver on the grid. He's honest about his anxiety, about how mental it is being championship favourite, and how much it winds him up when people slag him off on social media. Don't get me wrong, I support the guy, but until things in his head are not resolved, even with the best car McLaren's built in years and a title in reach, he might still fall short this season. Not because he isn't good enough, but because the final step to greatness requires a kind of detachment he hasn't fully mastered yet. Or do you think Norris will finally get it together in the second half of the season? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.